Appalachian Genealogy presents Repairing the 1870 Census.
If you're a genealogist who's ever researched the American South right after the Civil War, you know the feeling. You hit a brick wall, a big one, and chances are that wall has a date stamped right on it, 1870. Well, in this explainer, we're going to show you exactly how to break right through it. For so many of us, the 1870 Federal Census is where the trail just goes cold. You know, it was supposed to be this first clear picture of a nation coming back together. But instead, it's just this source of huge frustration. You know your family was there, but the official record, it's completely silent. And this problem gets especially bad in the southern Appalachian counties. We're talking about parts of Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, you name it. For researchers in that area, the 1870 census isn't just a little gap. It's a well-known black hole where entire families and even whole communities seem to just disappear. Okay, so let's dive into this. To find the solution, we've really got to understand the problem first. Why was this one census so flawed? Well, the reasons are all tied up in the chaos of what was happening right after the Civil War. I mean, even the National Archives will tell you that a lot of the original counts were so bad they had to be completely redone. In the mountains, you've got this incredibly difficult terrain, which made it almost impossible for census takers to get to everybody. You had huge numbers of people moving around, looking for work, for safety, or trying to find lost family members. And, there was this deep distrust of anyone from the federal government, which is pretty easy to understand given the time. It was just the perfect storm for a failed count. But what if I told you that there's another set of records from this exact same time period? A kind of secret weapon that's often way more accurate and way more detailed. I'm talking about Reconstruction voter rolls. And these aren't just lists of names, they are solid proof of presence. So, starting in 1867, as a part of Reconstruction, the southern states were ordered to create brand new lists of all eligible voters. Now here's the really crucial part. Men had to show up in person in front of local officials to get on that list. That one simple act verifies that a specific man was physically standing in a specific place at a specific time. And this chart right here really lays out the difference. The census was trying to get a broad head count, and it was often done by an outsider who didn't know the community at all. The voter rolls, on the other hand, were put together by local officials, guys who knew the families, who knew the land, for the really critical job of rebuilding the government. So one was often just an estimation, the other was based on confirmed physical presence. The result? A much more dependable record. But these records do so much more than just prove your ancestor was in a county. In this is where we get to the real breakthrough. This is a technique that can actually pinpoint when your family arrived. This is the magic that's been hiding in these pages all along. The whole secret is locked away in two simple questions that officials asked every single man who came in to register. How long have you lived in this county, and how long in this precinct? Now, most people might just glance right over those details, but I'm telling you, they are pure gold. And here it is, the aha moment. The calculation itself couldn't be simpler. You just take the date of registration, subtract the length of residence they gave, and boom, you have the season, sometimes even the very month, that his family moved into that area. You've just turned a static political record into a dynamic migration timeline. All right, let's put this into practice so you can see how it builds a story that the census totally missed. We're going to look at a real-life case study from a county up on the Cumberland Plateau, where this exact technique uncovered an entire lost community. So in this particular county, the 1870 census showed just a tiny number of African-American households. But local oral history, the community's own memory, always insisted that way more families had lived there right after the war. For decades, there was just no official record to prove it. Then, researchers decided to check the 1867 and 1869 voter registrations, and there they were. More than 30 African-American men, heads of households, spread out across several precincts, men who were completely invisible to the 1870 census. And by using that simple little calculation, their entire story just snapped into focus. The residency data showed that many of these families had arrived in the spring of 1866. They built their lives, and then in 1867 and 1869, the men went and registered to vote, getting their presence officially on the books. Then, a year or so later, the census taker comes through and misses almost all of them. Without those voter rolls, that community's entire founding story would just be lost to history.
Okay, so this is the crucial part. How can you take this amazing method and apply it to your own research? It's actually a really clear, straightforward process that anyone can use to push back against a bad census record.
It really just boils down to 3 steps. First, you identify the gap. If the 1870 census in your county looks suspiciously empty or is missing people you're sure should be there, that's your starting point. Second, you have to locate the voter rolls for that county. And third, analyze the data. Don't just look for a name, hunt for those columns that ask about length of residence, and then do the math. So where do you find these things? Your first stops should always be the state archives. The Tennessee State Library and Archives, the North Carolina State Archives, the Library of Virginia, they all have amazing collections. Also, make sure you check the digitized records on Family Search, because more and more are coming online all the time. And if you need more background, the National Archives has all the federal context for Reconstruction. You know, in the end, these records do so much more than just fill a blank spot on a census form. They restore lost histories, they give a voice back to forgotten communities, and they give us a much truer picture of one of the most difficult and important periods in American history. They prove that even when one record fails, another one can step in and reveal the truth. So the only question left is, what stories are waiting for you in the rolls?
Thanks for joining us today. Like, follow, and share for more Appalachian history, stories, and genealogy. Visit us on the blog at www.appalachiangenealogy.com.